When fear tries to enter your home, prayer becomes the shield that stands at the door. A family covered in prayer is never left unprotected because God watches over every heart under that roof. Even when storms rise, God's mighty hand can bring peace, healing, unity, and supernatural protection to your household. The enemy may attack through confusion, sickness, stress, or division, but prayer invites heaven's power into your family. Today, you are not just praying words, you are declaring God's authority over your home, your loved ones, and your future. There is something powerful that happens when you begin to pray over your family consistently. You may not see it immediately with your physical eyes, but in the spiritual realm, God begins to move in ways you cannot fully understand. Prayer is not just a daily habit or a religious routine. Prayer becomes a divine shield around your home. It becomes a covering that protects the people you love from dangers seen and unseen. Many families today are under attack from stress, confusion, fear, sickness, temptation, financial pressure, and emotional exhaustion. The enemy works overtime trying to divide homes, destroy peace, and weaken relationships. But when someone in the family decides to stand in prayer, everything begins to shift. God responds to the heart that seeks Him sincerely. When you pray over your family, you are inviting the presence of God into every room of your house. You are declaring that your home belongs to the Lord and that darkness has no authority there. Even if your family is going through difficult seasons, prayer creates a spiritual boundary that the enemy cannot easily cross. God's mighty hand begins to rest upon your household. He protects conversations, decisions, emotions, and relationships. He gives wisdom where there was confusion and peace where there was tension. Prayer has the power to calm storms before they grow stronger. Some people think protection only means physical safety, but God protects in many different ways. Sometimes He protects your family from making wrong decisions. Sometimes He closes doors that would have led to pain and regret. Sometimes He removes people who carry harmful intentions. Other times He gives strength to endure difficult moments without falling apart. God sees dangers long before you ever notice them. That is why prayer is so important. While you are sleeping, God is watching. While your children are away, God is guiding them. While your loved ones are facing battles they never speak about, God is standing beside them. There will be moments when fear tries to enter your heart. You may worry about the future of your children, the stability of your home, or the challenges surrounding your family. But prayer replaces fear with faith. Every time you pray, you are placing your family into the hands of the one who never fails. You are reminding yourself that God is greater than every problem standing before your household. His power is stronger than every attack, every setback, and every plan of the enemy. No situation is too broken for God to restore. A praying person in the family can change the atmosphere of an entire home. One faithful prayer can stop an argument from becoming destruction. One moment in God's presence can bring healing to wounded hearts. One declaration of faith can break chains that have held a family captive for years. Never underestimate what God can do through your prayers. Heaven listens when you call upon the name of the Lord. Angels move according to God's command. Divine protection begins to surround and your household in ways you may never fully see on this side of eternity. Even when your family is imperfect, God still responds to sincere prayer. You do not need perfect words. You do not need a perfect life. God honors a heart that genuinely seeks Him. Sometimes the most powerful prayers are the simplest ones spoken through tears, desperation, and faith. God is not looking for performance. He is looking for surrender. He wants families to depend on Him instead of trying to carry every burden alone. When you place your home before God daily, you are building a foundation that cannot easily be shaken by the troubles of life. Life becomes very different when the peace of God begins to fill a home. Many houses may look beautiful on the outside, but inside there is stress, silence, tension, and emotional distance. People can live under the same roof, yet still feel disconnected from one another. Arguments become common, frustration grows quickly, and hearts slowly become heavy from carrying hidden burdens. But when a family begins to seek God daily, His peace starts entering places where anxiety once ruled. God never intended for your home to be filled with constant fear and confusion. He desires your home to become a place of comfort, love, rest, and spiritual strength. The world today is filled with pressure from every direction. Financial struggles, responsibilities, disappointments, and unexpected problems can easily steal peace from a family. Sometimes people carry stress from work into the home. Sometimes emotional pain causes family members to withdraw from each other. In many homes, communication slowly breaks down because everyone is overwhelmed by life's challenges. But prayer reconnects hearts to God and to one another. When a family seeks God together, His presence changes the atmosphere inside the home. Suddenly, there is more patience where anger once existed. There is understanding where there used to be constant conflict. There is calmness where fear used to dominate every thought. God's peace is different from the temporary peace the world offers. The world says peace comes when problems disappear, but God gives peace even while storms are still happening. That is why a family that trusts God can remain strong even during difficult seasons. Challenges may still come, but they no longer destroy the unity of the home. Instead of panicking, family learns to lean on God together. Instead of giving up, they continue praying with faith. God becomes the center of the household, and His presence begins guiding every decision, every conversation, and every relationship. There are moments when families face situations they cannot fix on their own. A child may be struggling emotionally. A marriage may be under pressure. Financial hardship may create fear about the future. Health problems may bring uncertainty into the home. During those moments, many people lose peace because they focus only on the size of the problem. But prayer shifts the focus back to the greatness of God. When you pray daily, you remind yourself that God is still in control. You begin to understand that no burden is too heavy for Him to carry. Peace also grows when forgiveness enters the home. Many families lose peace because old wounds are never healed. Hurtful words, disappointments, and past mistakes create walls between loved ones. But God's presence softens hearts. He teaches family members how to forgive, how to listen, and how to love each other again. A home filled with God's peace becomes a place where people feel safe, valued, and supported. It becomes a refuge from the chaos of the outside world. Children especially need to grow in an atmosphere of peace. They may not always understand everything happening around them, but they can feel tension inside a home very deeply. When parents pray and trust God, children begin learning where true peace comes from. They see faith in action. They learn that prayer is not only for emergencies but a daily connection with God. Those lessons stay with them for the rest of their lives. God can restore peace even in homes that have experienced years of pain and disorder. Nothing is too broken for His power. He can heal damaged relationships, calm troubled hearts, and rebuild what seemed impossible to repair. Every prayer spoken over your family invites heaven closer to your home. Every moment spent in God's presence strengthens the spiritual foundation of your household. Slowly, the fear, anger, and heaviness begin losing their power because the peace of God starts ruling over every corner of your life. The enemy always looks for ways to bring division, fear, and confusion into a family because he understands the power of unity. A divided home becomes weak emotionally, spiritually, and mentally. Misunderstandings begin to grow. Small disagreements turn into major conflicts. Fear slowly enters people's hearts and causes them to overthink, assume the worst, and lose trust in one another. Confusion makes people feel lost and uncertain about the future. Many families are silently battling these spiritual attacks without even realizing it. But prayer has the power to break every chain the enemy tries to place upon a household. When a family prays together, or even when one person faithfully stands in prayer for the home, spiritual darkness begins to lose its authority. God's light starts exposing the lies, negativity, and emotional heaviness that have been controlling the atmosphere. Fear cannot remain strong where faith is growing. Confusion cannot continue ruling where God's wisdom is invited. Division cannot survive where love, humility, and prayer are present daily. Prayer changes the environment of a home from the inside out. Fear is one of the enemy's strongest weapons against families. Fear makes people worry constantly about things they cannot control. Parents fear for their children's future. Husbands and wives fear financial struggles, failure, or loss. Children fear rejection, pressure, and insecurity. Fear creates emotional exhaustion because it keeps the mind trapped in worst-case thinking. But God never called His people to live under the control of fear. Through prayer, families begin replacing fear with trust in God's promises. They begin remembering that God is greater than every uncertainty standing before them. There are also times when confusion enters a household quietly. Family members stop understanding each other. Communication becomes difficult. People begin reacting emotionally instead of listening with love and patience. Wrong assumptions create distance between hearts. The enemy loves confusion because confusion weakens unity. But when prayer enters the situation, clarity begins to return. God gives wisdom to speak carefully, listen honestly, and respond with understanding instead of anger. He calms emotional chaos and helps families see each other through eyes of grace instead of frustration. Division often begins with small unresolved issues. One offense turns into bitterness. One misunderstanding creates emotional walls. Pride prevents people from apologizing or forgiving. Over time, relationships become cold, and distant. But prayer softens hardened hearts. God begins healing wounds that people have carried for years. He reminds family members that love is more powerful than pride. He restores compassion where resentment once existed. Even relationships that seemed completely broken can begin healing when God becomes the center again. Sometimes the enemy attacks through outside influences as well. Negative people, unhealthy habits, temptations, and worldly distractions can slowly weaken the spiritual strength of a family. Prayer acts like a spiritual alarm system. It brings discernment and protection. God begins revealing what needs to change and what needs to leave the home. He strengthens family members to resist temptation and stay connected to His truth. There is incredible power in speaking God's promises over your household. When you pray, you are declaring that fear will not control your family. You are declaring that confusion has no place in your home. You are declaring that division will not destroy the relationships God has placed together. Heaven responds when believers pray with faith and authority. God's Spirit moves through homes bringing peace, wisdom, healing, and restoration. The enemy may try to attack your family, but he does not have the final word. God is still stronger than every battle your household faces. His power is able to restore what has been damaged and protect what the enemy tried to destroy. Every prayer spoken in faith becomes part of the spiritual foundation that keeps a family standing strong during life's hardest moments. One of the greatest comforts a person can have is knowing that God is watching over their loved ones. In a world filled with uncertainty, danger, temptation, and unexpected struggles, many people constantly worry about the safety and future of their family. Parents worry about their children. Husbands and wives worry about each other. Families carry silent fears about health, relationships, finances, and the unknown challenges of tomorrow. But when you pray over your family, you place them into the hands of the God who sees everything before it happens. His mighty hand becomes a covering over the people you love most. God's protection is not limited by distance, time, or circumstances. Even when your loved ones are far away from you, God is still with them. While you may not always be able to guide, please, protect or help them physically, God can reach places you cannot reach. He watches over your children at school, your spouse at work, and your family members wherever they go. Nothing escapes His attention. He sees every danger before it appears. He understands every hidden struggle your loved ones are facing, even the battles they never speak about openly. Many times people only think about protection in terms of physical safety, but God protects in deeper ways too. He protects minds from destructive thoughts. He protects hearts from hopelessness and emotional pain. He protects lives from wrong relationships, dangerous decisions, and spiritual attacks that could lead people away from His purpose. There are moments when God closes doors because He is protecting your family from future harm. Sometimes disappointment itself becomes protection in disguise. What people think was rejection may actually be God's mighty hand redirecting them away from danger they could not see. Children especially need prayer covering every single day. The world is constantly influencing their minds, emotions, and choices. They face pressure from society, social media, friendships, and environments that can either strengthen or weaken their future. A praying parent becomes a spiritual protector for their children. Even when children make mistakes or go through difficult seasons, prayer continues reaching them. God can speak to them, guide them, and protect them in moments when parents feel helpless. Never underestimate the power of a parent crying out to God for their child. Sometimes loved ones drift spiritually or emotionally. They may become distant from God, disconnected from family, or trapped in unhealthy patterns. During those moments, fear can easily take over the hearts of those praying for them. But prayer reminds you that no one is beyond God's reach. His mighty hand is still able to rescue, restore, and bring people back to Him. God can break addictions, heal emotional wounds, and transform hearts that seem impossible to change. He specializes in restoring lives that others have given up on. There are also moments when families walk through seasons of sickness, grief, or hardship. Those moments can feel overwhelming because human strength has limits. But God's power has no limits. When you pray over your family during painful seasons, you invite supernatural strength into your home. God gives comfort where there is sorrow, hope where there is despair, and endurance where people feel weak. His presence carries families through storms that would normally destroy them. The beautiful thing about God's protection is that it continues even when you cannot see immediate results. Sometimes God is protecting your family from accidents, spiritual attacks, or harmful situations without anyone even realizing it. Many blessings are hidden inside God's unseen protection. There are dangers He prevented, tragedies He stopped, and battles He fought on behalf of your household without your knowledge. That is why prayer should never stop, even during peaceful seasons. A family covered by prayer is never abandoned. God's mighty hand rests upon homes that trust Him sincerely. He becomes their refuge during trouble, their peace during uncertainty, and their strength during weakness. Even when life becomes difficult, His protection continues surrounding those who call upon His name with faith and confidence. There is a powerful difference between a house and a home filled with the presence of God. A house may provide shelter, but only God's presence can fill a home. With true peace, joy, love, and spiritual strength. Many families spend years trying to fix problems through human effort alone, while forgetting that the greatest transformation happens when God is invited into daily life. Prayer is what opens the door for His presence to move freely within a family. The moment a family begins seeking God together, the atmosphere inside the home begins to change in ways words cannot fully explain. God's presence brings comfort during difficult moments. There are seasons when families face pain, disappointment, and uncertainty that feel too heavy to carry. In those moments, prayer reminds everyone that they are not alone. God walks with families through every struggle, every loss, and every challenge. His presence becomes a source of strength when emotions feel weak and exhausted. Even in the middle of hardship, there can still be peace because God Himself is near. A home that welcomes God's presence begins to reflect His character. Love grows stronger. Patience increases. Forgiveness becomes easier. Family members become more aware of how they speak to one another and how they treat each other. Prayer softens hearts that have become hardened by stress, anger, or disappointment. It creates an atmosphere where people feel safe, valued, and emotionally supported. Instead of constant negativity, hope begins filling the home. Instead of emotional distance, relationships slowly become closer and healthier. Many families today are spiritually empty because they only focus on physical needs while neglecting their spiritual foundation. They work hard to provide financially, build successful lives, and solve daily problems. But without God's presence, something still feels missing. Human success alone cannot create lasting peace within a family. Only God can satisfy the deep spiritual needs of the heart. That is why prayer matters so much. Prayer reconnects the family to the one who created them and understands them completely. When God's presence fills a home, even ordinary moments become meaningful. Conversations carry more kindness. Meals shared together feel more peaceful. Decisions are made with greater wisdom and understanding. Family members become more sensitive to each other's struggles and more willing to support one another through difficult seasons. God's presence changes not only major situations but also the daily atmosphere people live in every single day. Children who grow up in a home filled with prayer and God's presence receive something far more valuable than material possessions. They learn the importance of faith, trust, and dependence on God. They witness the power of prayer through the example of their parents and loved ones. Those spiritual foundations often guide them throughout their entire lives, especially during moments when they face personal struggles and difficult decisions. A home filled with God's presence becomes a training ground for faith that impacts future generations. God's presence also protects families from becoming spiritually cold and disconnected. In today's world, distractions are everywhere. Technology, Busyness, stress, and worldly influences constantly compete for attention. Without prayer, families can slowly drift apart emotionally and spiritually without realizing it. But prayer keeps hearts connected to God and to one another. It reminds families what truly matters beyond temporary problems and distractions. Sometimes people believe they must have perfect lives before inviting God into their home, but God enters broken places willingly. He is not afraid of imperfection, failure, or weakness. In fact, he often works most powerfully in homes that recognize their need for him. A family does not need to be perfect to experience God's presence. They simply need willing hearts that seek him sincerely through prayer and faith. Every time a family prays together or prays for one another, they are making room for heaven to move inside their home. God's presence begins healing emotional wounds, restoring broken relationships, calming fears, and strengthening hearts. Slowly, the home becomes more than just a place to live. It becomes a place where God's love, peace, and power are experienced daily through his living presence among the family. There are seasons in life when families feel completely overwhelmed by the weight of their struggles. Some homes are carrying silent pain that nobody outside can see. Financial pressure keeps people awake at night. Sickness drains strength and hope. Broken relationships create emotional wounds that seem impossible to heal. Delayed prayers cause discouragement to settle into the heart. Many people continue smiling in front of others while privately feeling exhausted and defeated inside their own mess. But faithful prayer has the power to open doors that human effort alone could never unlock. God responds to families who continue trusting him even during difficult seasons. Prayer is not just about asking God for things. Prayer builds spiritual endurance. It teaches families to depend on God instead of depending only on their own understanding. Sometimes answers do not come immediately, and during those waiting seasons, people are tempted to give up hope. They wonder if God still hears their cries. They question whether their situation will ever change. But faithful prayer keeps the heart connected to God even while waiting for breakthrough. It reminds families that God is always working behind the scenes, even when nothing seems to be changing outwardly. Healing is one of the greatest blessings God brings into a praying home. Some families need physical healing from sickness and pain. Others need emotional healing from trauma, grief, disappointment, or betrayal. Many people carry wounds from past experiences that still affect their relationships and daily lives. Unhealed pain often creates anger, fear, insecurity, and emotional distance within families. But God's presence has the power to restore what pain has damaged. Prayer invites his healing touch into the deepest areas of the heart. There are also families praying for restoration. Some relationships have become strained after years of misunderstandings, harsh words, and unresolved conflict. In many homes, communication has broken down completely. Family members may love each other deeply but no longer know how to reconnect. Pride, hurt, and bitterness create walls that seem impossible to tear down. Yet God specializes in restoring broken things. Through faithful prayer, hearts begin softening again. Forgiveness slowly replaces resentment. Compassion replaces coldness. God rebuilds trust one step at a time and restores relationships people thought were beyond repair. Breakthrough often comes after seasons of persistence in prayer. Many people stop praying too soon because they become discouraged by delays. But some of the greatest miracles happen after long periods of waiting and trusting God. Breakthrough may come in the form of financial provision after months of struggle. It may come through unexpected opportunities, restored health, transformed relationships, or renewed peace inside the home. Sometimes breakthrough begins quietly before it becomes visible outwardly. God first strengthens hearts internally before changing circumstances externally. Faithful prayer also changes the spiritual atmosphere of a family. Darkness begins losing its hold when people consistently seek God together. Hopelessness is replaced with expectation. Fear is replaced with confidence in God's promises. Families stop focusing only on problems and begin focusing on God's power instead. Even before the breakthrough fully arrives, peace begins growing because faith is becoming stronger. There will always be moments when families feel tired of praying. Discouragement may whisper that nothing will ever improve. The enemy wants people to stop praying because prayer keeps the connection between heaven and the home alive. Every prayer spoken in faith matters, even when results are not immediate. God hears every cry, every tear, and every whispered prayer spoken over a family. Nothing offered to him sincerely is ever wasted. Sometimes the breakthrough God brings is different from what people expected, but it is always according to his perfect wisdom and timing. He knows what a family truly needs, more than they understand themselves. While people focus on temporary struggles, God is working on eternal purposes and deeper transformation within the hearts of his people. A praying family may still face storms, but they do not face them alone. God walks with them through every challenge, strengthening them day by day. His healing restores wounded hearts, his restoration rebuilds broken relationships, and his power opens doors that once seemed permanently closed. Through faithful prayer, families begin experiencing the reality that nothing is impossible for the God who still performs miracles in the lives of those who trust him completely. One of the greatest decisions a family can make is to trust God completely in every season of life. It is easy to trust God when everything is going well, when there is peace in the home, money in the bank, good health, and joyful moments to celebrate. But real faith is revealed during difficult seasons when nothing seems certain. Trusting God during pain, delays, disappointment, and hardship requires surrender. It means believing that God is still good even when life does not make sense. Families that continue trusting him through every sea will build a spiritual foundation that cannot easily be destroyed. Every family will eventually face storms. There will be seasons of waiting, seasons of loss, seasons of struggle, and moments when answers seem far away. Some families experience financial hardship that creates pressure and fear. Others battle sickness, emotional pain, or broken relationships. Sometimes the future feels unclear, and people become overwhelmed trying to figure everything out on their own. But homes that trust God completely learn how to stand firm even during uncertainty. They understand that God's power is not limited by human situations. Trusting God means placing every burden into his hands instead of carrying it alone. Many people exhaust themselves trying to control everything happening around them. They constantly worry about tomorrow, overthink every situation, and allow fear to consume their peace. But God never intended families to live under constant anxiety. He calls his people to rely on him daily. Prayer becomes an act of surrender where families admit that they cannot handle life without God's guidance, strength, and wisdom. A family that trusts God learns to seek him before making important decisions, or retaining decisions. Instead of reacting emotionally to every challenge, they pray for wisdom and direction. They believe that God can guide their path even when they cannot see the full picture ahead. Trust creates peace because it shifts the focus away from human limitations and back to God's unlimited power. Even when doors close unexpectedly or plans fall apart, faithful families continue believing that God is still working for their good. God honors homes that remain faithful to him during every season. Faithfulness is not proven only during moments of blessing, but also during moments of testing. Some people only pray when they need something urgently, but families that truly trust God stay connected to him consistently. They worship him in good times and bad times. They continue praying even when answers seem delayed. They continue believing even when circumstances appear impossible. That kind of faith invites God's favor and presence into a home in powerful ways. Children are deeply impacted when they witness this kind of trust within their family. They learn that faith is not just words spoken on special occasions, but a daily lifestyle. They observe how their parents respond to problems, pressure, and uncertainty. When children see adults trusting God instead of falling apart in fear, it plants spiritual strength inside them as well. Those lessons become anchors that help guide them later in life when they face their own battles and challenges. Trusting God completely also brings unity into a family. Instead of blaming one another during difficult times, family members begin supporting and encouraging each other through prayer and faith. They stop fighting against each other and start standing together against the challenges they face. God's presence strengthens relationships and reminds families that they do not need to face life's struggles alone. There are moments when God allows seasons of waiting because he is developing deeper faith and dependence within a family. Waiting seasons are uncomfortable, but they often produce spiritual growth, maturity, and stronger trust in God's timing. Families that continue trusting him during those moments discover that God never abandons those who place their confidence in him. His timing may not always match human expectations, but his plans are always higher and wiser. A home that fully trusts God becomes spiritually strong because it is built on faith instead of fear. Problems may still come, but they no longer control the atmosphere of the family. God's peace remains present even during storms. His strength continues sustaining hearts during weakness. His wisdom guides decisions during uncertainty. His love keeps the family united through every challenge life brings. When a family chooses to trust God completely, they are declaring that He is greater than every fear, every obstacle, and every battle standing before them. They are placing their future into the hands of the one who never fails, never changes, and never stops watching over those who seek Him with sincere hearts.